For decades, Heather Locklear existed in the public imagination like a character from a modern fairy tale, beautiful, untouchable, and seemingly born for the spotlight. From the outside, her life appeared blessed with success, admiration, and opportunity. Yet behind the polished images and glamorous roles lived a woman quietly wrestling with fear, loneliness, and an unrelenting pressure to be perfect. Her story is not simply about fame or downfall, but about the emotional cost of living under constant scrutiny, where applause often drowns out pain until it can no longer be ignored. Heather's life reminds us that even the brightest public figures can be carrying invisible burdens, and that fame, for all its rewards, does not protect the heart from breaking. Roots in structure and creativity. Heather Dean Locklear was born on September 25, 1961, in Los Angeles, California, and raised in the San Fernando Valley in a household shaped by both discipline and imagination. Her father, a former Marine who later worked in academia, emphasized structure, responsibility, and perseverance, while her mother, a production executive, introduced creativity and artistic expression into daily life. This blend created a foundation that valued both ambition and order, encouraging Heather to aim high while remaining grounded. As a child, she was polite, sensitive, and deeply connected to her family, showing early signs of emotional awareness that would later define both her strengths and vulnerabilities. Adolescence and the search for belonging. Despite her future fame, Heather's teenage years were marked by insecurity rather than confidence. She often described herself as ordinary and overlooked, struggling with self-esteem, physical awkwardness, and a sense of not quite fitting in. Rejected from social groups she longed to join, she endured teasing and doubt, yet these years quietly built resilience. School plays became her refuge, a place where she felt seen and valued and where her presence naturally commanded attention. On stage, she found a version of herself that felt powerful and complete, foreshadowing the path that would soon unfold. A fork in the road. At UCLA, academically gifted and thoughtful, Heather initially envisioned a future far removed from Hollywood, considering a career in psychology and research. While attending UCLA, however, chance intervened. A modeling opportunity for a campus catalog introduced her to the world of cameras and casting calls, opening a door she hadn't actively sought but couldn't ignore. Though modeling itself was brief and unfulfilling, it led to auditions that would quietly redirect her life. What began as a side experience soon became a calling, pulling her toward acting with a force that felt both thrilling and terrifying. Learning. Under the spotlight. Heather's early acting career was anything but effortless. When she landed a role on Dynasty, one of the most popular television dramas of the 1980s, she entered an environment of immense pressure. Inexperienced and nervous, she struggled at first, aware that every misstep was visible to seasoned professionals. Yet instead of retreating, she worked tirelessly to improve, absorbing criticism, learning technique, and slowly growing into her role. Her determination transformed uncertainty into competence, and her character soon became a defining element of the series. What began as a risk became the foundation of her stardom. Becoming a household name through Dynasty and later T.J. Hooker, Heather's presence became synonymous with primetime television. She embodied characters that were confident, alluring, and commanding, often projecting a strength that contrasted sharply with her private self. Viewers saw glamour and control, while behind the scenes, she remained disciplined, professional, and eager to prove herself worthy of the opportunities she'd been given. By the end of the 1980s, her name carried weight, her face was instantly recognizable, and her career trajectory pointed unmistakably upward. The Melrose Place phenomenon. The 1990s marked Heather Locklear's cultural peak with her role as Amanda Woodward on Melrose Place. Originally intended as a short-term appearance, her performance electrified the series, transforming it into a global phenomenon. Amanda was sharp, unapologetic, and powerful, a character who dominated every scene and reshaped the show's identity. Audiences were captivated, critics took notice, and Heather earned repeated award nominations. At this point, she wasn't merely successful, she was iconic, widely regarded as the defining television star of the decade. Reinvention through comedy. Rather than remain confined to dramatic roles, Heather challenged expectations by joining the sitcom Spin City. Her performance revealed a sharp comedic instinct, earning acclaim and proving her versatility. At a time of transition for the show, her presence helped maintain its momentum and emotional balance. Colleagues praised her professionalism and warmth, and audiences embraced her ability to shift seamlessly between humor and sincerity. This chapter reinforced her reputation, not just as a star, but as a reliable force capable of revitalizing any project she joined. A career that refused to fade. Even as television evolved, Heather continued working, later appearing on Boston Legal in a more restrained, mature role that reflected her growth as an actress. No longer relying solely on glamour, she embraced complexity and nuance, demonstrating that her talent extended beyond the archetypes that once defined her. Though the spotlight was less intense, her commitment remained strong, and her willingness to adapt showed a quiet courage often overlooked in discussions of longevity, love, intensity, and emotional cost. Heather's personal life unfolded with the same intensity as her on-screen roles. Early relationships were passionate but volatile, reflecting a pattern of deep emotional investment. Her marriage to musician Ava Sambora initially appeared stable and supportive, offering the promise of family life she deeply desired. Together, they welcomed a daughter, Ava, and for a time, Heather seemed to have achieved balance between career and home. Yet differing lifestyles, constant travel, and unspoken emotional distance slowly eroded that foundation, culminating in a divorce that deeply affected her sense of security. Betrayal and emotional fallout. The end of her marriage was compounded by personal betrayal, an experience that shattered Heather's trust and sense of belonging. For someone who valued loyalty and emotional closeness, this rupture cut deeply. The pain did not remain private. It unfolded under relentless public attention, making healing even more difficult. This period marked a turning point where grief, anxiety, and exhaustion began to overshadow the confidence she once projected so effortlessly. Struggles behind closed doors. In the years that followed, Heather faced ongoing mental health challenges, navigating periods of instability while attempting to preserve her dignity and privacy. Rather than portraying her struggles as moral failure, it is important to understand them as the human response to prolonged stress, unresolved trauma, and emotional isolation. These years were marked by attempts to seek help, moments of setback, and a growing awareness that healing is rarely linear. A daughter as an anchor. Throughout everything, Heather's bond with her daughter Ava remained her strongest source of grounding. Ava became not only family, but emotional support, offering compassion rather than judgment. Their relationship evolved into one of mutual strength, where love flowed in both directions. Ava's steady presence reminded Heather of purpose beyond fame, reinforcing the idea that even in the darkest moments, connection can offer a path forward. Speaking with compassion, not blame. When Ava later reflected on her mother's struggles, her words were not accusatory, but understanding. She acknowledged how emotional loss and public scrutiny had compounded over time, leaving deep wounds. Rather than framing Heather as broken, Ava described her as human, someone hurt by circumstances and doing her best to survive them. This perspective helped many reframe Heather's story, shifting it from scandal to empathy, later, love and gentle hope. In later years, Heather found companionship that offered calm rather than chaos. These relationships were quieter, more grounded, and reflective of her desire for peace. While not every chapter endured, each offered growth, teaching her that love did not have to be dramatic to be meaningful. What mattered most was mutual support and emotional safety, values she came to cherish above all else. Redefining legacy. Heather Locklear's legacy cannot be reduced to either triumph or struggle alone. She shaped television history, defined an era, and influenced countless performances that followed. At the same time, her openness, intentional or not, about vulnerability challenged unrealistic expectations placed on public figures. She became a symbol, not just of fame, but of survival, reminding audiences that success does not eliminate pain and that asking for help is not weakness. Life beyond the spotlight. Today, Heather lives more quietly, choosing privacy over performance and balance over ambition. While she occasionally reconnects with fans through appearances or reunions, she no longer defines herself by constant visibility. Instead, she focuses on stability, family, and personal well-being, embracing a slower pace that reflects wisdom earned through hardship. A story still unfolding. Heather Locklear's journey is not a closed chapter, but an ongoing narrative of resilience. She has fallen, risen, and learned, carrying scars that speak not of failure, but of endurance. Her story invites reflection rather than judgment, encouraging us to look beyond headlines and see the person beneath the persona. Final reflection. In the end, Heather Locklear is neither a cautionary tale nor a fallen idol. She is a woman who lived intensely, loved deeply, struggled publicly, and continues to seek peace on her own terms. Perhaps her greatest legacy is not the roles she played, but the reminder she leaves behind that healing is possible, dignity can be reclaimed, and even after the brightest lights fade, a quieter, truer kind of strength can still shine.